what? So people know, because I really don't know, Mark. What? So everything about you was just messed up. I mean, what do you? You had 2 legs. You broke. Was
If
your
you
back?
asked my mother, she'd say, yeah, since birth, everything about you's been messed up. Yeah. But now physically, no, I lost use of my left foot. My right foot, I can push down, but I can't lift up. So
Yeah.
I've got what they call foot drop on both of them.
Did you go duck hunting in October?
So I did. Actually, my physical therapist carried me on his back through the marsh, and we hunted ducks opening day.
Here's where the friends part comes in, of the tragedy, friendship, teasing, and humor. And that friendship and the teasing is what sparked Mark Williams and kept him going.
He made me a bar, he got me a bar stool with a back on it and the 4 legs, and put that in the blind for me so that I could sit in the blind and swivel it around and hunt out of it.
Yeah.
And I was the duck caller. I was the guy that had the duck call, and so I'd call the ducks in for all my buddies, and then they would tell me, okay, Mark, get ready. Ducks are right out front. We'll throw the blind down when it's time to take them. They'd say, okay, get ready. Well, the ducks were back here. They'd throw the black down and shoot. I didn't get a shot for like 30 days. I mean, he did this to me every single day. Unloaded my gun.
So they're messing with you.
Oh, mess with me all the time. My name to them, I was never called Mark. I was March of Dimes.
What? Because
I was crippled up.
Really?
Hey, March of Dimes, come here.
How important was that to you when your buddies did that to you? Just busted your chops like that?
That's the way I grew up. That's all my friends. We busted chops with each other all the time. It didn't bother me a bit.
Didn't.
And those same guys then later on decided that it was too much trouble for me to use that walker, which it wasn't. I wanted to do it. I wanted to get stronger. But they took an old sled, like a child's sled, and they put wheels on it.
Yeah.
And they had a rope on it, and they would bungee my feet, my legs, down on that, and they would pull me down the levee to the duck blind so I didn't have to walk. And they do that in the morning and afternoon. Well, one morning, I decided, I called them my little dumb mule and my little fat mule. That's how I referred to them, Ron and Gary, the little dumb mule and the little fat mule. Well, I'd made myself up a whip, and I put it underneath that sled, and in the dark. So in the dark, they're carrying me down there. Well, I pull that whip, and I start whipping them behind their ears with that thing, and they're yelling, and they start running, and they don't let go of the sled, and I go off in the water into a ditch that's about 6 feet deep, and I'm bungeed into this sled, and I can't get out. And I thought, I've just gotten real cute and drowned myself. But luckily, I got out.
Now, when you were in the hospital going through your recovery, did they come in and bust on you in the hospital too?
Oh, I had one friend of mine, Steve Stevenson, who's owned the old Stevenson's Apple Farm restaurant.
Sure.
He brought in a pint of vodka one day for me when I was still hooked up on everything. And my roommate and I drank that pint of vodka in there. And when they came in and took our blood test, they went nuts. So what's the matter with these guys? Where did all this come from? We drank a pint of vodka in there. And Steve thought that was funny. And I wasn't going to turn it down. So.
When did they start calling you March of Dimes?
Oh, as soon as I got out of the hospital.
Did they?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you appreciate?
Yeah, because I had a big leg brace. I had to wear a big metal leg brace.
Yeah.
So I looked like one of Jerry's kids. Just a little older.
Just a little older. Did you appreciate that more? People go to a hospital and they see that you're, oh, Mark, how are you? Are you doing okay?
Oh, I never got any of that.
You never got? No. People never did that to you?
No.
Really?
No, I was known as one of Jerry's kids. And just. Yeah.
They're merciless about that.
Yeah, it's
really?
fine. I would have been to them. I mean.
Because there's people that when they go through that, Mark, they think you can't laugh at stuff like that. It's wrong to do it. Do you think that was critical for your recovery?
Oh, I don't know if it was critical for my recovery. That's just the way I was. I guess there are certain people that couldn't handle that and would find no humor in it.
Yeah.
But for me and my friends, that's how it worked.
Anybody around you like that?
Nothing was sacred.
Nothing sacred.
Except your mother. You never talked about somebody's mother.
Never talk about somebody's mother.
Anything else could fair game.
Now, would your mom or dad, when they came in, did they kid around with you?
No, my dad was probably the most positive person that I've ever been around. And one of the things my father would do, he'd come in every day and he'd meet with the doctor before he came into my room. And he'd ask the doctor, he said, give me some good news on Mark. The doctor said, there is no good news. He's doing terrible. He's not going to make it. And I said, no, let's go over this chart. Tell me about it. Well, this is bad, this is bad. My dad said, I don't want to hear what's bad. There's got to be something in this chart that's good.
Really?
The doctor would look at it and he'd go, I don't know, maybe blood sugar's okay, but other than that, everything's horrible. Dad would walk in, pat me on the back, Mark, good news. Blood sugar's real good today. That's a big step forward.
Now, did you know? Could you hear him doing that, or did you find this out
No,
later?
I found this out later.
Really?
He did that every day. He'd find something positive to come in and tell me.
Is that where you got your attitude when you're under?
I guess, yeah.
I mean, in doing
I guess where there's my father and mother are they're not negative people. The word can't isn't in their language.
What was he in the Marines? What level did he make in the Marines as far as officer or enlisted man? Or what
Well,
was his,
no,
what was his degree of? That's
what was his degree?
What was his degree?
No, I think he was just a buck sergeant. He was a drill instructor.
Oh, was he? He was a drill instructor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And your
I think Mom outranked him quite a bit, but I don't know by how much. And
yeah.
Of course, that carried on through life.
I was going to. At the time of this interview, when I interviewed Mark, Mark's mom was 91 years old. Today, Mark's mom is 100 years old, and she's going strong. She is a firecracker. Bernice is a wonderful human. I went and talked to her and met her, and after I talked to her later, she said, would you mind if I called you my boyfriend, David? She is just the most charming woman. Now, Mark's dad is the one where Mark got his humor, and you're going to hear by this next story where Mark got the whole phrase about why you bust chops, and it was his dad who taught him that.
He had one thing, he never filled up the tank in the car, and I don't know why. It was always on empty. And when you're 16 years old, you suddenly turn from the most obnoxious teenager in the world into, Mom, Dad, what can I do for you? Any errands you want me to run? You want to drive the car.
Sure.
So we'd be going somewhere. Dad and I'd be going somewhere, going hunting or something somewhere, and he'd say, you want to drive? I'd say, yeah, that is great. So I'd get in, drive. We'd get up a road about 3 miles, and it's out of gas. He'd go, what's the matter? Looks like we're out of gas. He says, well, we got a rule in the family, when the car runs out of gas, whoever's driving's got to watch the gas. I hot-foot it back.
You ever heard that rule before?
No, it's all new to me, but he could whip me, so, the rules were the rules.
Yeah.
Well, he did this to me about 2 or 3 times, till I finally got smart enough, that I'd turn the key on and look at the gas gauge before I volunteered to drive.
That's great.
But you'd be driving up the road, and my dad also, he'd start to fall asleep, and he'd be sound asleep. Well, now all of a sudden I'm tired. We've been driving for an hour and a half. I'm starting to get tired. And maybe I'd be driving along and drop a wheel off the side of the pavement or something, come back on, and Dad would wake up. He'd say, are you tired? I said, Dad, I'm beat. Well, son, he'd say, why don't you pull the car over the side of the road and we'll both take a nap?
In the next class coming up, we're going to shift it to Mark's friends. We're going to shift it to the teasing, the laughter, and how they busted each other's chops. But it's very important, they had rules to doing it, very specific rules, which you'll find out, and I'll see you in the next class.